The doctor looked at me and said, "Stage 4 cancer." My husband squeezed my hand in the hospital room. He cried. He promised he would stand by me. He said, "I'd burn the world before I let anything happen to you." I believed every word. 2 weeks later, while I was starting chemotherapy, he started selling my company. He thought I wouldn't survive long enough to notice. So at the final signing meeting, when everyone believed I was too weak to attend, I walked in and opened one file. His lawyer stopped breathing. Before I tell you what actually happened, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Now let's begin. My name is Victoria Hale. I am 42 years old. And this is how my husband tried to sell my company while I was fighting stage 4 cancer. The day I was diagnosed, everything sounded far away. The doctor kept talking, but all I could hear was one sentence. Stage 4. I remember staring at the wall behind him. There was a painting of blue flowers. I focused on those flowers because they were easier to look at than my husband's face. Daniel was crying. He held my hand so tight I thought my fingers would break. "We'll fight this," he kept saying. "I won't leave you. I promise." And at that moment, I believed him. I had built my company from nothing. 15 years ago, it was just me, a laptop, and a tiny rented office. Now it was one of the fastest growing wellness brands in the city. I worked for every contract, every employee, every deal. Daniel used to say he was proud of me. The first weeks after my diagnosis, Daniel was perfect. He drove me to every appointment. He sat beside me during chemo. He held the bucket when I threw up. He slept on the hospital chair even when nurses told him to go home. "I'm not leaving," he would say. When I lost my hair, he shaved his head too. When I felt ugly, he kissed my forehead. When I cried at night, he whispered, "You're stronger than this." I believed him. Cancer is not just pain. It is fear. It is waking up at 3 a.m. and wondering if you will see next year. It is staring at the ceiling and asking God for one more chance. Daniel was my comfort. But slowly, something changed. At first, it was small things. He insisted on attending every meeting. He told my assistant to cancel my travel plans. He said stress would kill me faster. I thought he was just scared. But over the next 2 weeks, I noticed something. He stopped asking me before making decisions. He started saying things like, "Victoria needs rest," when the board requested updates. He began attending meetings alone. Sometimes I would wake up from sleep, and he would not be there. "Meeting," he would say when I asked. "I have to keep things stable." Stable. I nodded. Of course the company needed stability. I built it from nothing. Hundreds of employees depended on it. One night, I woke up from sharp pain in my chest. I could barely breathe. I called his name. No answer. I called again, louder. Nothing. I forced myself out of bed and walked slowly to the living room. He wasn't home. It was 11:40 p.m. He came back at 1 a.m. "Where were you?" I asked weakly. "Office," he said quickly. "Late meeting." He didn't ask why I was standing. He didn't notice I was shaking. That was the first time I felt alone. After that, the visits became shorter. He stopped sitting through full chemo sessions. "I can't watch this," he said once. "It's too hard." So I sat alone, watching poison drip into my body, watching other husbands hold their wives' hands. And mine was answering phone calls in the hallway. Then something else changed. People from the company stopped calling me directly. They called him. My assistant, Clara, sent me a short message one afternoon. "Is everything okay?" That was it. No details. Just that question. I called her. "What do you mean?" I asked. She hesitated. "Daniel said you want to step back." My heart dropped. "I never said that." She went quiet. "He told the board you don't want stress, that you're focusing on treatment." I felt cold. "I never said that." That night, I asked him gently, "Did you tell them I'm stepping back?" He sighed like I was being difficult. "Victoria, you can barely walk some days. That doesn't mean I'm quitting. I'm protecting you." There it was again. Protecting. I wanted to believe him. But something inside me started whispering. 2 weeks later, I woke up and saw my office door closed. Daniel was inside, on my chair. talking on speaker. We have to think about the future, he was saying. I stood outside quietly. We can't risk everything if her condition gets worse. Her condition. Not my name. My condition. I stepped back before he saw me. That night, he didn't sit beside me. He worked late in the office. I lay in bed alone. And for the first time since the diagnosis, I cried not because of cancer, but because I felt replaced. The next morning, Clara sent me something. A picture. It was a meeting schedule. Private discussion. Transition plan. Transition. Transition to what? I stared at the screen. My hands were shaking. I wasn't dead. I wasn't gone. But it felt like my life was already being rearranged. He thought I wouldn't survive long enough to stop him. He was wrong. I just needed to understand what he was planning. And I was about to find out. The next week, I stopped asking questions. That surprised him. When you stop questioning someone who is hiding something, they relax. And when they relax, they make mistakes. Daniel became calmer. Kinder, even. He brought me flowers. He kissed my forehead before leaving for work. Big week ahead, he said one morning. What kind of week? I asked softly. Just board stuff. Don't worry about it. Don't worry. I smiled. Inside, I was wide awake. Chemo was getting harder. Some days I couldn't stand without feeling dizzy. Some nights I threw up until my throat burned. But the pain gave me clarity. I started checking my company email again. Quietly. He had removed my main access. But he forgot something important. I was the founder. Founders don't disappear that easily. Through an old recovery account, I saw messages he didn't think I could see. Emails between him and 2 investors. Messages about timing. Notes saying, she doesn't need to know yet. My chest felt tight. Not from cancer. From betrayal. One evening, Clara came to the house. She brought soup. She hugged me gently. Her eyes looked worried. Daniel told the board your treatment isn't responding well, she said carefully. I froze. What? He said the doctors are not hopeful. That was a lie. My doctor said it was serious, but not hopeless. I realized something terrifying. He wasn't just preparing. He was building a story. A story where I was already gone. The next day, I had treatment alone. Daniel said he had an important meeting. I didn't argue. I sat in that hospital chair, watching other patients with their families. And I understood something painful. Sometimes people don't leave when you're sick. They leave slowly. Emotionally first, then physically. When I got home, the house felt quiet. Too quiet. I walked to my office. My files were arranged differently. Folders missing. Awards shifted. My name was still on the door, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I walked to the kitchen for water. As I passed the office, I heard his voice. Low. Serious. She won't fight this, he said. Silence. Then he added, she doesn't have the strength. My legs almost gave out. He wasn't talking about cancer. He was talking about me, about my will, about my power. I stood there in the dark hallway, listening. The buyers are ready, he continued quietly. Once we sign on Friday, the company is theirs. My heart stopped. Sign? Buyers? He kept speaking. The money will transfer the same day. After that, it's done. Clean. No chaos later. Clean from who? From me? He wasn't planning for my recovery. He was planning for my replacement. He was selling my company. The company I built from my kitchen table. The company that carried my name. The company that was still legally mine. I went back to bed quietly. Not because I was weak, but because now I knew the truth. The next morning, Clara sent me another message. The signing meeting is Friday. Private. Only key people. Friday. The same day as my strongest treatment. Of course. He thought I would be too weak to move. He thought I would be in a hospital bed. He thought pain would keep me silent. That afternoon, Daniel came home smiling. Everything will be easier soon, he said. For who? I asked. For everyone, he replied quickly. That night, while he slept, I went into my office. I opened my bottom drawer. There it was. The folder I hadn't touched in years. Thin. Simple. Powerful. I ran my fingers across it slowly. 14 years ago, when I first built the company, someone gave me advice. Never build something you can't protect. Back then, I thought it was just business wisdom. Now I understood it was survival wisdom. Daniel thought he was steps ahead. He thought my illness made me weak. He thought my silence meant surrender. He had no idea. Friday was coming, and I wasn't going to the hospital first. Friday morning arrived quietly. Daniel was already dressed when I woke up. Navy suit, silver watch, confident smile. He looked relieved. "How are you feeling?" he asked. "Weak," I said honestly. He nodded, almost like that confirmed something in his mind. "I'll handle everything today," he said softly. "Just focus on surviving." Surviving. I watched him leave the room. He thought today was the end of my story. He didn't know it was the turning point of his. At 8:45 a.m., I canceled my treatment. The nurse sounded worried. "I'll reschedule," I told her. "Trust me." By 9:30, I was in a car heading downtown. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from exhaustion. But I kept going. When I reached the office building, the receptionist stared at me like she had seen something impossible. "Mrs. Hale," I thought. "I know," I said gently. So did he. The boardroom doors were closed. Inside, I heard voices. Calm, confident. Daniel's voice was leading. "This is the safest decision for everyone," he was saying. Safest. I opened the door. The room froze. Daniel's face lost color. "Victoria." The investors looked confused. One board member whispered, "We were told you couldn't make it." "I almost didn't," I said quietly. But I changed my mind. I walked slowly to the table. Every step hurt. But pain is temporary. Loss is permanent. Daniel rushed toward me. "You should be resting." "I am," I said. "Resting from lies." The room went silent. The documents were spread across the table. Signature tabs ready. Pens placed carefully. Everything prepared. Except for one thing. Me. The lawyer tried to speak calmly. "Mrs. Hale, we're just securing the company's future." I placed my bag on the table. "I agree," I said. Then I opened it and took out one thin file. Nothing dramatic. No thick stack of papers. Just a simple folder. I slid it across the table. "Before you continue," I said softly, "read page 3. The lawyer opened it. His eyes moved, then stopped. His breathing changed. He read it again. Daniel frowned. "What is it?" The lawyer looked at him slowly. "This company cannot be sold," he said. The room shifted. "What?" Daniel snapped. The lawyer swallowed. 14 years ago, when the company was formed, Victoria signed a founder protection agreement. Silence. He continued. "It states that no sale, no transfer, no leadership change can happen without her direct written approval." Daniel stared at me. "That's not possible." "It is," I replied calmly. The lawyer closed the file slowly. "It's legal. It's active. And it overrides this entire deal." One investor stood up. "You told us she approved this." Daniel's mouth opened. No words came out. Another board member spoke. "You said she wanted to step down." Daniel looked around the room like he was searching for support. There was none. "You said she wouldn't fight this," I added quietly. His face went pale. The deal collapsed in minutes. Chairs moved. Papers were gathered. Investors left without shaking his hand. The lawyer packed his briefcase without speaking. When the room finally emptied, it was just us. Daniel looked at me like I was someone new. "You planned this," he whispered. "No," I said softly. "I prepared for this." He ran his hands through his hair. "I thought you were dying." "And if I was?" I asked. He had no answer. 2 months later, my scans came back. The treatment worked. The cancer shrank, then disappeared. The doctor smiled when he said it. No sign of disease. I closed my eyes and breathed. I didn't just survive cancer. I survived betrayal. The divorce was quiet. No shouting. No drama. He left with what was legally his. Nothing more. The board voted to remove him from all control. I returned as full CEO. Not because I needed revenge, but because I built it. A year later, I stood in the same boardroom. Healthy, strong, alive, signing expansion plans, growth, future. Daniel once believed cancer would finish me. Instead, it exposed him. Sometimes illness doesn't destroy you. It reveals who is waiting for you to fall. If someone ever thinks you're too weak to fight, show up anyway, even if you're shaking, even if you're in pain, and always protect what you build. Because survival is not just about beating disease. It's about never letting someone sell your life while you're still living it.